Welcome back to another edition of English 215 Online. We're in week number 2 at this point, and it's going to be a little bit more demanding in terms of the writing assignments. Be sure to have those introductions to your classmates concluded. That's going to be very important for class participation. And the only way that, again, you'll be reported at all in terms of to Ivy advising during this very special quarter will be if there is just a lack of participation in the class in terms of doing work. That's going to be basically the only reason that I would be reporting at this at a certain point. But be sure to get that introduction completed if you haven't already. So for week 2, we're going to have a discussion, only it's going to be over the short stories. Short story that you're going to choose between Edgar Allan Poe's Masque of the Red Death, Flannery O'Connor's A Good Man is Hard to Find, or The Boarding House by James Joyce. You can choose any of those 3 stories and write in about them and interpret them in the discussion page area. One of the things that we're going to be having you read this week is in terms of schools of literary theory. That's a Purdue OWL link. And with that Purdue OWL link, what you're going to be doing is taking a look at just some of the specific schools of thought that are out there. It's not complete, but it's something that it shows you in terms of how scholars have been interpreting literary texts for, say, about the last century or so in terms of the history of that. So be sure to take a look at that to help yourself get familiarized. I'm going to explain a couple of them here today. And in our text page, introduction to the week, we'll have an explanation about in terms of new historical criticism and Marxism and reader response. There's 3 others I just wanted to talk about for a couple of minutes today in terms of analysis, and that's located in chapter 4 of your textbook in terms of analyzing an argument. But literary analysis is a specialized type of analysis where usually you have a sort of a frame of mind or an intention that you have in terms of how you're going to interpret that text. So a few others that come to mind here would include in terms of a racial criticism, where it takes a look at how, in terms of race relations and how the races are treated in terms of a text. A particularly good one probably to use for that kind of interpretation would be A Good Man is Hard to Find. For example, there's definitely some datedness and racial tension that is in terms of that text. And certainly Flannery O'Connor, she intentionally included that kind of tension and out of date perspectives by the grandmother in that text. So it's something that could be used, could see that being used in the text. Another would be in terms of post-colonialism. And post-colonialism deals with in terms of, looks at either a group of people that have been conquered by, in terms of a victorious imperial power, or for example, you could look at in terms of the United States being post-colonial. Of course, it's, you know, what was the aftermath of in terms of the American Revolution. So that's something that you can look at as well in terms of post-colonialism. An example too in literature would be Rudyard Kipling. looked at in terms of, like, for instance, Indian people and other people that were non-British in his stories. You could tell that he looked at them in kind of a condescending way, or in terms of they weren't as knowledgeable or more innocent in character. So, or sometimes more villainous. So it's something that definitely post-colonial commentary and treatment could be used for that. And there's also in terms of psychological analysis as well. We're going to be taking a look at something in terms of what kind of motivations do the characters have. And certainly with any Edgar Allan Poe story, you'd have sort of a field day with both author and text in terms of looking at it from a psychological perspective and what were some of the motivations and underlying themes in terms of character psychology and possibly author psychology as well. So those are a few of the things that we're going to be tackling this week. Be sure to also have in terms of by the end of week 2 of your annotated bibliography completed of a story that you're going to choose to interpret. And also, because these are famous short stories, there's been multiple commentators on in terms of these short stories. So be sure to find them through our Ivy Tech virtual library. We have a sample search that's of a psychology topic that's located as a link in our miscellaneous section that you can check out. And be sure to, if you have any questions, to either email me or send things in terms of through our Zoom conferences that we'll have each week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 to 4. I'll send a link via message in terms of for that particular meeting. And for those of you that have had experience with teleconferences before, you'll know pretty much how it operates. And there's also an option for audio as well. If you can't get a hold of video, there's a number that you can always call and be a part of it in terms of audio. Okay, so again, there'll be an access code that'll send to each week. So if you didn't already do it in week 1, maybe you want to do it and see some of your classmates and me in the flesh in week 2. All right, so again, take care. Have a great week. And again, use the email method or in terms of our Zoom conferences to ask questions. And again, best wishes for your writing and your work this week.